And this is the new case. We've got 3 transfer cases that we took. Well, the original 249, which is a piece of crap. We got a WJ 242. Problem with that one was everything was right except it didn't have this right here. Didn't have the speedometer gear on the shaft. It was just a turned down shaft. It wouldn't work at all. Went from there. Here's some of the 249 parts and some of the 242 parts also. We're going to reuse the speedometer part from that 249. We're not going to use the bell case. We got the drive shaft for the 242. And here's some other spare parts we have left over. Here's the finished part after we bead blasted and cleaned all the surfaces for the back side of the case. And yeah, we got plenty of extra parts. Anyway, I just wanted you guys to see. There's a lot of videos out there on how to rebuild one of these cases, and they do a pretty good job, so we're not going to get into all that here. But if you just buy a rebuild kit, we bought the US Gear brand rebuild kit, and just be very careful. This has to line up with this hole right here for it to get oil to this bearing, because there's no seal on that bearing. It's not meant to have a seal. So anyway, just thought you guys might find that interesting. That's how you stay out of it. All right, the other thing with the WJ transfer case is there's no place for a speedometer sensor. So, well, I could mill that out and tap that hole. It's just not done from the factory. So if you don't want to go through that, then make sure you don't buy a WJ 242 unless you have another WJ that does have the tapped hole
or
and the
XJ.
milled out, or is that XJ? I'm sorry, well, I said WJ. XJ, where it is drilled out and it's tapped. I don't want to have to go through all that. I mean, we could, but it'd just be more work. Now the 249 transfer case is totally different. It has a longer housing, so your drive shaft lengths are different between the 242 and the 249 in the ZJ. And there's your speedometer your speedometer hole for your sensor. This one came with a big plastic gear on it, which is fine, and you have to take this cap off to get to the retainer in there to hold it to get it out. But anyway, to make a long story short, a WJ transfer case
It's not good.
is
to swap
not a
into
good one to
ZJ
swap
or XJ.
into a ZJ. Probably not an XJ either, because there's no cutout here. There's no provisions for a speedometer drive on your output shaft to the rear drive shaft.
That's right. It doesn't
There's
have the
nothing.
notches
It's just
in
a
it.
blank
Yeah.
there. So don't buy a WJ thinking it's going to be an easy swap, because we ran into all kinds of issues like the short and then having to make the spacer. Then we ran into the Resipa joint shaft, which came out of the 242 that we had. I showed that just a minute ago, which causes a whole nother set of issues. Every one of them you can overcome. But if you want to get it done quickly, don't get a WJ transfer case and try to use it in an XJ or a ZJ. It's just more of a pain in the butt to make it work, although you can make it work. Now you can look at the difference in the sensors, or the difference in the length here. There's a real short one, and that's because of the depth here from where your arm is. And one's from the ZJ, and this is the one that came out of the 249. It's got a lot more threads here, and it won't even screw in depth-wise, because it's going to run right into the selector arm where the notches are to tell you what gear you're in. So, and it's a 4-prong. This transfer case came with a 2-prong, so we know we can't use that one. So we had to make a spacer, and I know every one of you have a lathe in your shop, in your garage, where you do all your work. Just to give you this is just food for thought before you do this transfer. Make sure you can get this. You need the short selector switch, or you can make a spacer. This is on this one. It was 400 thousandths. I put a bevel in it right there to account for the O-ring. And gave myself a thousandths worth of squish. I beveled this one, and also the transfer case has a slight bevel in it. So when I put this over top of that and I lock it all down, that'll put me back at 0.319, which is where I want to be, because that's the depth of this one. So that's where I want to be to make the switch from the ZJ fit this particular 242 transfer case, which has 2 or 3 other parts from another 242 in there, and almost nothing from the 249 except this I needed because my Jeep has a 4-prong selector.
Now, which parts on this came from an XJ and or the WJ 242?
Well,
which parts were used to complete this case?
This particular shaft right here, the output shaft to the front U-joints, was a Resipa, and Resipa joint itself. Now, I will show a picture of the differences there. The regular U-joint yoke, the splines come all the way to the end. Now, that's fine if you're running an intermediate shaft or your front output shaft that is also splined all the way to the end. That's fine, because it'll go there. This tightening up on the bearing and the bearing being locked is what keeps this gear from moving in and out in the transfer case. The problem that I had was this shaft right here behind that yoke was from the Resipa joint, which presented another problem. If you can see right here, it's cut back to slide over part of the shaft that doesn't have splines. So I had to take this one, and we'll throw a picture in there. Like I said, I had to take I had to do it in the mill because I couldn't chuck it up in the lathe. I had to go real slow and just use XY axis going all the way around to take those threads out to that depth to be able to use this yoke on a Resipa shaft for your front. So what I should have done, and I didn't know it at the time, didn't catch it, I should have used the other front drive spline short shaft for the transfer case instead of the one from the Resipa joint. So you run into that as an issue. Fortunately, I put it in the mill and took it out, and we got it on there, got it locked down, got all the play out of it. So there are subtle differences that you need to be aware of if you're making the jump from the 249 piece of crap where the viscous coupler always seems to lock up, which we're getting away from. I'm not going back with that. So we went with the 242 Select Track. Since it's more of a street Jeep, we're not going to do any heavy rock crawling. We're going to have the XJ for more off-roading. But we do want to have the full-time four-wheel drive capability for ice, because we do get ice here, and snow. And we also want a part-time, just because it locks the transfer case, you don't have the slippage as you would in a full-time four-wheel drive. And we also want two-wheel drive for a little better gas mileage, and it drives a little better. So anyway, those are some of the things to consider. There are differences in 242 transfer cases, but it's not anything that you can't fix if you have a few tools to do it with. So.
Alright, 3 things for you in the video. 1, I'll include a picture. You want to get the shift gate, which is a little plastic guard for your transfer case that guides it. If you can, get that from the 242 donor vehicle. We did not. We still have the 249 shift gate on here. It'd be better to have a 242. If you can get one, get one. Also on your ZJ, when you swap out you got connection back here. That connects for your sensor of the transfer case, and you got wire way back up in here. You got 3 different plugins. You got one for a 231, for a 242, and a 249. So the vehicle information center can tell you what mode you're in. Now I decided just to trash this because they're crap, and I didn't want to pay $350 for a refurbished one. Now I did buy a cubby that came on the 2-wheel drive models from Brian off eBay. It was a very good purchase. Has pretty good amount of room in there, and it's just better than the Vic dinging all the time. And number 3, drive shafts. When we did the swap, we tried all kinds of different drive shafts, from DJs, WJs, and XJs. We tried everything, and we got tired of it, so we went to mount all of our drive shafts, and we just had them make a custom one. Now there's the rear drive shaft. We have them make very good quality drive shaft, strong. Have no problem behind it with a 5.9 with a Dana 44 aluminum. Very good drive shaft, no problems with it. They put Dana Spicer U-joints on it. And overall, if you're looking to do a 242 swap on your ZJ or XJ, don't get a WJ transfer case. You're gonna run into a lot of problems unless you got everything to solve those problems. Then it still isn't worth it. Just get one from a XJ or ZJ, the J transfer case. This transfer case has no problem holding up to the power of the 5.9, so you don't need to go get a HD transfer case from a WJ and try to figure out this swap. If you made it all the way in, thank you. Like and subscribe. Put in the comments section what transfer case swap you'd like to do. And this was Jeep and Jack. Hope you come back.